You're listening to the Tom Green Podcast. I'm Tom Green, and I'm very excited about today's show where I'll be speaking with another Tom, a hilarious Tom Segura, the incredible, the legendary Tom Segura. You know him from Your Mom's House podcast, from his many comedy specials, from his years as a stand-up comedian, actor, and now media mogul. He is running his own network and multiple podcasts with his wife, Christina Pazitsky, who is a fellow Canadian, by the way, and also a comedian herself. And they're touring and performing and creating and doing all of this amazing stuff. I was recently a guest on Your Mom's House, and now Tom is returning the favor and coming and talking to us over here. So cool. One of the things I really enjoyed and was excited to talk about was his upcoming Netflix special, which he is performing in Spanish. He's a Spanish-speaking gentleman, Tom Segura, of Peruvian descent. Grew up in a Spanish-speaking household, and it's interesting to see how the comedy translates into another language when you've done something in English for so long. How is it different to now perform in Spanish as well? And I really enjoyed this conversation. Tom, of course, is known for his outrageous comedy, outrageous and edgy sense of humor, of course. Definitely, you never know what's going to happen on Your Mom's House or what he's going to talk about. Some of his dark material, of course, is very appealing to me and so many others. So this was definitely a ridiculous talk. We also got to talk a little bit about his relationship with his good friend, Bert Kreischer, who is also hugely successful in his own right with his podcast and his stand-up, and they have a great rapport on a show that they do together also. So lots to talk about. I don't want to say everything now. We're going to talk about it with Tom right now. Here's Tom Segura. Hola, Tom. Buenas tardes.
Yeah. Buenas tardes, Tom.
How are you doing?
I'm good, man. How are you?
That's about the extent of my Spanish. Hola, buenas tardes, gracias, mi habla español poquito, justo poquito más. I love
perfect.
Poquito más. Yeah, I speak a little bit. I'm working on it. I speak
how's a little. How's your français?
My français, c'est bon. Je parle français parce que je suis canadien, so je parle français comme ci, comme ça.
Yeah. Okay.
A little bit better. I love that you're doing so much in Spanish now with your show. And thanks for calling my show. I had so much fun on Your Mom's House.
It was great.
Also had fun at Dr. Drew's show in your studio, in your new studios, and your empire that you've built for yourself. It's incredible. Man. Congratulations.
I appreciate it. I'm
glad
that you're doing
How are
this.
you, Christina, doing with this pandemic? How are you guys handling all this crap?
I mean, I think it's like we're handling it pretty well. I'm a little more, I'm at this point, you're like, all right, so this is wrapping up, right? Like that's kind of my hope. You're like, Jesus, how many fucking days are there? But,
yeah.
I think that being said, I think we're getting through it fairly okay. Okay. How about you?
It's interesting because I'm alone. I'm alone, Tom. I'm alone.
Oh, that's different. That is different, though.
In some ways, honestly, I don't want to say I'm enjoying it. There's a pandemic and it's horrible and everybody's out of work and people are getting sick but I'm just referring to being alone. Because I'm isolating and quarantining by myself at my home here in LA, and I had almost went home to Canada to be up there with my brother and my parents and around family and stuff. But I just decided I was going to stay here and fire up the podcast and it's been interesting because I've been getting a lot of stuff done that I have wanted to do for a long time that I haven't been able to get to.
It's kind of nice in that way. I mean, look, we all have to preface it, like you said, with the acknowledgement that not everybody's going through this the same way. It absolutely is true. But there's this thing, I think, in entertainment, especially like in what we do, where you go in this very peculiar way. It's like permission to not have to do certain things, and it gives you the freedom to go like, oh, I can do these other things. Like we're not hustling on the stand-up front because you can't. So you're like, I'll do podcasts, I'll write, I'll take care of things at home. And then that permission kind of feels good because you're like, everybody can't do this thing. You know what I mean? It's like it's almost like permission to not compete at something for a little bit, and you're like, okay, all right, it's kind of nice.
Because there is this hustle, this grind that happens in the comedy business. You get an offer to do a show. Of course, you take the show. Well, you want me to come tell jokes? Of course I'm going to go. So now you end up like so many of us who tour and do this. You always have a show coming up in a week or two. And then that's always in your mind, you know? That's always in your mind. And it's not like you're dreading it. We love doing stand-up, right? We love it, right?
Right. Yeah, of course. Yeah. Yeah, we love it.
But there's sort of I don't know if this is something that I just go through, but I'm assuming it's not. You get sort of a certain anxiety or adrenaline that you sort of are anticipating having to go to the airport, get on the plane. And so that's always in you. You always feel that?
You always feel it. It has never gone. I mean, you kind of have it go away if you go on a vacation and you go, and there's no stand-up on this vacation. Like, you know, it's not a vacation built around a trip.
Yeah.
You go, you really and then you go like, wow, this is kind of nice. And it'll last, a week.
Yeah.
And then you come back and the anxiety starts to build. Yeah, I feel that anxiety and adrenaline cycle all the time, with the exception of these past 6 weeks, because I haven't felt it at all. I've actually even entertained the thought a few times. Enter my mind. I go. I mean, I know this is like dramatic, but I'm like, oh, what if I'm done being a stand-up? What if I never do stand-up again? Right. Not that I want to, but the idea comes into my mind.
Yeah, because it's an interesting feeling to realize that you could just sit at home on the couch all day. I mean, certainly. Yeah. You're fortunate enough to be able to do that, right?
Right.
You've probably got a pretty nice couch.
I got a couple, but I mean, I have been. I've even though that stand-up goes away, I've never done more podcasts. I did a book proposal. I'm working on a television pitch, so I'm still working. But the funny thing is, I think there's nothing quite like that anxiety, adrenaline drive with live performance. So I think the fact that the stand-up element went away, it feels completely different. You know what I mean? It feels different.
Yeah.
Than if you stop other kinds of work.
It is literally a drug. The adrenaline and the dopamine that you get from that positive reinforcement of feeling the love of all of your fans is a drug, and you're addicted to the drug. I'm sure you're addicted to that dopamine rush.
Totally addicted to it, and it going away definitely creates I didn't realize that I was frustrated. I punched my producer the other day, so I got frustrated.
You actually punched your producer?
Yeah, he fucked up. He doesn't know how to Google anything. So, I checked him. I grabbed his shirt. I put him against the wall.
Wow.
And I didn't hit him in the face because I knew, he'd whine about that for a year. So I just cracked him in the ribs. But I mean,
and did it sort of calm down after that? I mean, I know what it's like when you have a studio and you're trying to make things work and the technology breaks down and your producer doesn't show up on time. But I've never gone so far as to punch somebody. That's kind of crossing a line a little bit. It's kind of exciting.
Well, it's kind of crossing the line. It's kind of, a coaching element. It's kind of like, a new management technique. Yeah. And I got to tell you, I've seen a totally different producer since then.
Yeah.
A totally different attitude. Yeah.
I hear him laughing in the background. Well, that's good that he can. That's good.
All of a sudden, he can Google things real fast. You know what I mean?
It's amazing how that works. Now, so you've built this studio. I was out at your studio because when I did your mom's house, it was at your house.
Yes,
I believe your old house. I think you moved.
That's right.
You moved, right?
That's right. Yep.
Yeah. So at your old house, yeah. But then I went to your studio with Dr. Drew, and that was a lot of fun. Are you enjoying being a studio mogul?
Yes, I am enjoying my mogul status. Yeah. It's just great to have. It really is great to have a place to go to. You feel like this is where we do the work. I like it. I like that more than having the work out of the house thing. I always like having that office to go to, and I love putting out content. So we have like a great team of guys here, and doing those shows. Working with Drew is a dream. We love it. So we're just putting out as much stuff as we can. I do one with Bert Kreischer too. The Two Bears one. So we're doing it, and yeah, the facility here is great. I love it.
So you and Bert are getting together to do that now, or are you doing it remotely? Or are you actually?
No.
Yeah. You're
we
not,
both do it. We're not now. I mean, like, look, the only place we go is home and here.
Yeah.
Neither one of us does any other socializing. We both. It's all for people that flip out about why are you go. We fall under the city mandate. The city mandate allows any media, and they list podcasts as media. So we're allowed to come here and do it. We have I mean, you know, they want it to have a staff of like 10 or under, and we have currently down to 3 staff at a time. So, you know, we're able to meet the guidelines, and yeah, we come here, we do the show.
But there's a real element of trust there, though, because then you have to trust that Bert Kreischer is not going out and interacting with other people and picking up this COVID-19 thing and then bring it to the studio. So what you're saying is you really trust Bert Kreischer.
I got to tell you, the way you just phrased that made me kind of rethink everything. I just want you to know that the way you said it wasn't cool.
Yeah, well, you know, just I care about you, Tom. I want to make sure you're being healthy and safe. So that's cool. No, I think it's also a nice thing to know that, because you guys are good friends and you do trust each other and love each other and you consider yourselves family, and that's why you're able to do this. You're able to kind of to come together at the studio, and you know that everyone's gonna be safe, right?
Okay, maybe we won't do it anymore. All right, is that what you wanted me to say?
I don't want to ruin the show. Yeah. I'm just throwing that out there. But no, I love it. It's amazing. You know, it's kind of cool. What point did you guys realize that your podcasts were, you know, I mean, blowing up, and you have this great family of friends and family that are literally family? You and your wife Christina do the show together. Did you realize this was really kind of turning into sort of this really amazing thing?
You know, it's been gradual, man. I mean, there was like the early stages where I didn't know that anybody listened, and one time in the early days, I was like, you know, what are 50 people listening to this? And I put out a call to harass one of my friends on Twitter. I told like in one of the, let's say episode, you know, 40 or something. I was like, we should all, and I gave my friend's handle on Twitter, and I was like, ask him how you can find men on the, you know, in different cities, like where the men are that will put out, like where you can find men that'll blow you and stuff like that.
Yeah, of course.
And I figured, like, you know, I was like, 16 people maybe will do this. Well, that episode came out, and, you know, like in the late morning, my friend called me and he goes, "What did you just do?" And I had recorded it a few days before, and I'm like, "What are you talking about?" I didn't know what he was talking about. He goes, "Dude, I am getting absolutely harassed. I'm having to shut my account down. People are asking me where they can find men in Raleigh, in Denver. I don't know what the hell they're talking about." And I was like, "What?" And then I went to Twitter, and it was like, I don't know, like 2,000 mentions. Yeah. All of this. And I was like, oh, there's a size that was actually the first indicator when my audience harassed online one of my friends. I was like, wow, people are listening to this show.
And people love a good gag, and they love to interact. Yes. And you gave them a task, and they completed the task, and everybody felt good. Except
you're right, and that like really perked my ears up. I was like, oh, this is like a thing, you know. And so from then on, it's always been this gradual thing. And you know, now we're able to see data that's like believable, but there was a whole point where there was all this basically unbelievable data that people were passing around. But so now you can like verify things, and you go like, wow, there's this many people listening and watching, and you know it built. But that was like the first time where I go, and you're right, people love, like Bert and I did a weight loss competition a few years ago.
I know, I saw. I love it.
where we told people to call the other one fat, and like when you give somebody permission to call me fat, like they don't hold back. So it was like memes and songs and photoshops, and you're like, okay, this is like there's a large audience that is engaging in this right now.
Where did you and Bert meet? How long have you guys been friends?
We met doing stand-up. I think the first time, I met him at the Brea Improv, and that would have been in 2004. And we became friends, and I've known him since. How long is that? It's like 16 years or something. Is that right? I'm not good at math.
People love seeing genuine friendship and camaraderie play itself out on television. And it's going back to, having sidekicks and talk shows, Carson and Ed McMahon, and you had Harvey Korman and Tim Conway on the Mary Tyler Moore, and the friendship, the genuine laughter that you would see, that people love that. It's a great thing. Did you identify that right away, or did you just sort of, your friendship, did it develop as you were both doing your podcasts and then you came together, or how did you sort of start to realize that was really connecting with people?
I knew we had I never thought about us doing a podcast, because there's only become in the last year or two, I feel like, where people were like, oh, you can have multiple podcasts, like have, ones that stand out completely different. Like, so that wasn't even a concept I entertained for a while. I knew we had a really fun dynamic. And I remember early on where like people were like, overwhelmed by Bert's personality. And I was like, oh, like I find it entertaining. And like, I'm the opposite type. Like it actually, like I don't mind, somebody being the star of the conversation. So I think that really helps with us, because I don't see it as like I'm competing for attention when we're together. Like I don't care if he walks into a room with me and like just starts dancing on tables and being a maniac. Like I find it entertaining. I enjoy being around it, and I think that there's some vice versa. Like he enjoys my energy and demeanor. Yeah. And so there's like a natural balance to it, You have to have balance to these kinds of things. I think we just always kind of go together in that way, that he's, just 0 to 60, fucking 2 seconds all the time, and I'm more laid back and I just jump in at moments. It just works, It's just a friendship that the dynamic works. And then that's the way we are on the podcast. That's how we are when we hang out. It's him saying things 1,000 miles an hour, stammering, changing the subject, making everything about himself, and me laughing and making fun of him. Like that's how we've always hung out.
It's so awesome. When did you make the decision to do a stand-up special in Spanish? Was that something that just happened naturally, or did you always want to do that?
I always wanted to work, and like when I've always wanted to like use my Spanish in some way. And I remember when Narcos came out, I go to my agent, can you give me an audition for Narcos, like for one of these smaller parts? And like my agent was like, oh, they're already shooting the next season. I was like, okay, well, what about the next season? And they just kind of like fucking forgot it. And I was like, well, I want to figure out something in Spanish. So I kept thinking, what could I do? What could I do? And then some of the Spanish-speaking comics in LA were doing shows, and I kept, a couple times it had been mentioned to me, and I go, I don't know if I could do that. And then I got like the bug to try it. I go, well, I got to try it, So I tried doing a set, and I had not been that nervous in more than 10 years doing stand-up.
Which is probably exciting.
It's exciting. It was actually, I was like, I cannot believe how nervous I am. I'm like freaking out, and I haven't felt that in years. So that was exciting, and I did it, and it was kind of that thing where I did well enough. I got some big laughs. I definitely stumbled through some things. But that's usually the experience that if you're a comic, you go, well, now I want to try to do that and do it better, and try it again. So I just kept trying it, and then once I told my manager, I can do this. Like I did a 15-minute set. I know I need to do work to make it better, but I can do a longer set. So we started booking some more shows. We told Netflix about the idea. They came out and watched me do like a shorter set. And then we're like, what if we did a full-length special? And they were all about it. So then I had all these, these shows set up. I'd done a few of them, but I've had to, cancel or reschedule a bunch, like our English shows,
Yeah, it's so exciting. I kind of relate because I speak a bit of French. And a couple of years ago at the Montreal Comedy Festival, just for laughs, I came out and I started, with Montreal's a French-speaking city, and I came out and I sort of opened with a little French, oh, bonjour, mes amis. And I was kind of realizing that even though my French is not as good as your Spanish, by any means, I don't speak fluent French, but I spoke enough of it that I was able to I started having some fun with it. Like I was realizing I could sort of be sillier and almost hide behind the fact that I didn't really know if I was saying it right and playing with some of that. So it became a kind of a fun experiment for me. And I was thinking that one way I could maybe learn to speak French better is if I translated, an hour of my material into French in writing, which I've done, and I'm trying to learn to say it in French, and I'm picking up so many different sort of verbs and different ways of speaking, just different things that I would not have understood. Because when do you ever have an hour of material of anything in English memorized other than when you do stand-up? So I feel, has it made your Spanish better? Have you become better at speaking Spanish?
So this is what happened, man. And I was going to say that I recommend this if you want to do this. So I've usually with a second language, you go through your periods of like when you were your best at it, and then the less you use it, the more it deteriorates. What happened with me was, I was raised in a Spanish-speaking household. Yeah. I lived abroad a couple times, once in my mother's native country in Peru, and then I studied in Spain when I was in college. And, when I came back from Spain, I would say my Spanish was like nearly perfect. I dreamt in Spanish. I wrote term papers. I did presentations and everything in Spanish, and it was excellent. In my mind, I was, I remember that and I go, that's my level of fluency. But what happened was over these years, even though I could say things and understand Spanish, very well, I wasn't using it, and it did deteriorate. And if you were to go like to my Spanish podcast is on my personal YouTube channel. Yeah. If you look up episode 1 and you see me speaking, and you're like, wow, this is like he's struggling to put sentences together. Like I'm getting through it, but it's clearly sloppy. And then you look at the last episode I put up a couple days ago. Like even the difference of that's a few months. I have improved greatly because I'm using it again. I'm actually using the language. And what I did was I of course I work on the stand-up part of it where I go like I'm saying this, I'm translating. I started doing the podcast because the podcast forces me to speak and listen, and I try to obviously speak with, native speakers. I hired a tutor who will just speak to me. So we'll do like Skype sessions, and I'll just talk to her for an hour, and I tell her like, when I make a mistake, stop me in conversation, tell me what the mistake was. I make note of it. So those practices have helped me improve it. If you were doing the French equivalent, I think it's it works well. Like the main thing you got to do with any language is you have to try to immerse yourself. So even if you hired like a French tutor and you go, just jump on Zoom or whatever with me once a week and just talk to me for an hour, you'll notice that your French will just get better and better and better the more you do it.
Yeah. And then of course when you're doing stand-up, you can't just decide halfway through the show, oh, geez, I don't know how to say this. I think I'll just start speaking English now. No, this is a Spanish show, and you gotta find a way.
You gotta find a way.
Is there? I was curious, and last question, Tom. I know you've got to talk all day.
That's all good.
You're doing a ton of podcasts. I appreciate you calling, but I was kind of curious, like when you start doing stand up in Spanish, do you find you do stand-up differently, and then you kind of learn or adapt and then bring some of that into your English act, whether, I don't know, you're sillier or is it exactly the same?
It's a really good question. I mean, I know that some of the people told me, I went to did one of these Spanish shows, and it's bilingual people, even though the show was in Spanish, and they were like, oh, it's still you. Like it's the same guy. Like you have the same storytelling style and the same way you kind of present it, and then there's like a pause. So they were saying like, it still feels like you. A couple people told me I seemed much nicer in Spanish. So I was like, oh, that's good. And they're like, yeah, you have like a softer quality to you. Like you're definitely not as big of an asshole in this language. I was like, oh, that's interesting.
Do you think it's because you're a little out of your element and maybe you're trying to, do you feel vulnerable maybe speaking in Spanish or what?
I think so. Yeah, I think that's part of it for sure. I mean, part of it is, you're a little more vulnerable, a little more insecure. You're not, you don't have a full mastery of what you're saying. So you're going to be maybe like inherently a little bit kinder, gentler as you speak. But I don't know. It's probably like all the experiences I've had in that language kind of, make me that way. And then, and like in English, I'm just such a fucking dick.
Yeah. It's like a Jekyll and Hyde scenario. You go to one show and it's a complete. That's so cool. Wow. Yeah. That's when does the Spanish speaking special come? It hasn't come out yet, right? The Spanish.
No, because see, what I was doing was I had a Spanish tour going right now, and it had to stop. So the tour was going to lead up to shooting it. So now we're going to have to rebook the tour dates and then shoot it at the end of that. So it's going to delay everything by, I'm assuming at least 6-9 months or something.
I love that. That's never been done, right?
I don't know. I don't think so. At least I don't know about it. I can't say it's never been done, but I don't know about it.
I think it's amazing. I don't think it's ever been done. That's cool. I love that. Tom, thanks so much. Please, all the best to Christina and the family. The kids are good. Everyone's doing good, and you guys are hunkering down and handling this thing all right, huh?
Yes, sir. Yeah, absolutely. And listen, I don't want you to be alone, so reach out anytime. Even if you're J and you're D and you're watching adult films, I want us to know that you're okay. So stay in touch. And also, when you feel safe, when you want to see others, you have an open invite. We love you. Please come to the studio to do Your Mom's House. I would love to have you in here.
Man, I can't wait. Okay, Tom, thanks, man.
Okay.
I will be there.
All right, buddy.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Tom Segura. I really thoroughly enjoyed that conversation. That was a lot of fun, and I will take you up on that offer. I will be definitely coming by your mom's house to hang out with you and Christina as soon as this pandemic nonsense is over. Thank you to everyone listening. I appreciate all your support. We're getting a lot of listens here, and it really, really is awesome to have the numbers going up. I'm noticing people must be talking. I would like to encourage you all to please tell some people about this, to subscribe to this, the Tom Green Podcast. The way you find it, you Google it. Just put the Tom Green Podcast in quotes in Google, and all these different platforms come up, not just the one you're listening to it on, but many, many others. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, TomGreen.com, many, many, many more. Please subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and tell your friends to do the same, because right now we are new. This is a new show. It's really just getting started, and I want to keep doing this and building this and letting people know about this, and I'm very excited about the future. You can help me make the future come much quicker if you let some friends know and tell them to do the same. I appreciate it. The people listening now, I love you. I love you all. You really are my hardcore, truest and dearest fans. This is the early stages of something that I'm very committed to and I'm going to keep doing for a long time. So I'm glad to have you here at the beginning. And all of us together, we can grow this together into being a great success. And I appreciate it. So everybody be safe out there. I know we're still in the midst of a pandemic, but we'll get through this. And in the meantime, I'll keep broadcasting if you keep listening. I appreciate it. Peace, and I'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye, everybody. Be safe.